tangible heritage of a community. The second aspect of tangible heritage is what we call, it comes to us from natural environment. For example, Great Barrier Reef is a heritage. And there are sand dunes, there are shorelines, there are various kinds of agricultural practices that are part and parcel of a community. They are all tangible heritage. And then we also have what we call the material culture. Material culture meaning the artifacts and the handicrafts and all these kind of things that a particular community or society produces. These are what we call artifacts or material culture. These are part of a tangible heritage. When we say intangible heritages, what do we mean by that is values. How the traditional communities have constructed and values. And an oral history, art, music, literature, and most importantly, our culinary tradition. Right. So I was expecting Prashanthi to present on the Tamil culinary traditions and the heritage aspect of it, but unfortunately she's not here. And the other important aspect of intangible heritage is language. So these are the general ways of approaching the idea of heritage. And we are supposed to understand, explain, value, care, and enjoy our heritage. That is that goes without saying. So the notion of world heritage, when we talk about world heritage and world heritage sites, it has one important aspect in that particular kind of heritage does not simply belong to one community. It is not for that community, but that particular value of heritage represents larger human civilization. It belongs to the entire humanity. There are communities, they have created certain kinds of, say, for example, classical literature that does not simply belong to Tamils, but that belongs to the entire human civilization. So each and every community may, and they will have certain aspects of their heritage that belong to the entire humanity. So technically speaking, the UNESCO and the World Heritage Association, they have devised their own standards and own criteria, and then categorize certain things as World Heritage. That's why we have a list of World Heritage sites all over the world. There are 3 World Heritage sites in Sri Lanka, and none of them are located in the Tamil areas. That's a different story. We'll come back to that later if we have time. So the traditional approach to the heritage and culture, as Dr. Shiva presented, is to assume that there are intrinsic and immutable values to culture and heritage. This is the kind of a traditional approach. That means we expect the culture and heritage, it won't change, and it should not change. So this is the kind of a typical approach towards our culture, the heritage, etc. I view this as a kind of a static view. It is not really helpful. For example, we cannot simply articulate that there is one and only way to be a Tamil. That is a static way of saying it. Because we have historically 2,500, 3,000 year old tradition, there is this way of being Tamil, and that is the one and only way to be Tamil. Right? In a similar way, we can also consider and articulate that certain values are sacred. Certain heritage aspects of heritage are sacred. That means, we cannot simply change it. Right? So at this point, we need to ask a question: if we want to preserve all kinds of heritage, for example, are we willing to preserve the heritage of Udankattai or Sati? Right? We can. Right? See, you see, for example, in the name of heritage, we cannot simply preserve everything. Right? That is obvious. So what I am proposing is that instead of the traditional kind of defining and approaching heritage, I am proposing that we should have what is called critical heritage studies. We need to approach the study of heritage and understanding of heritage in a very critical way. And this critical way, we consider heritage as a dynamic process, an interaction between the present and the past. We cannot create and understand heritage without the interaction between the present and the past. It is in that spirit I would like to offer the following observations, generally on culture, and then I will move on to Tamil heritage in particular. My first point is the cultures and heritage should be understood as attributes of a particular time at a particular place of a particular people. Secondly, all dimensions of heritage need to be constantly re-evaluated and tested by our social, cultural, and political practices, needs, and desires. These are the two parameters which I am proposing in the understanding of critical understanding of heritage. So, from this perspective, I would argue that it is necessary to view the attributes of heritage and articulate the heritage as a medium, an identity, and it should be a worldview for the following reasons. A, we should have a far-sighted planning on heritage, not a simple need for political and economic reasons. We should have a very far-sighted planning. And two, it could be a platform for political, aesthetic, and civilizational recognition. If we have a very old, 3,500 years old tradition, classical literature, classical language, classical way of living, if it does not have any kind of recognition, we have every right to articulate and demand a recognition, right? And third, the heritage should be a medium for intercultural dialogue. It is not exclusive. For example, we cannot simply conceive and understand Tamil culture without the knowledge, without understanding Malayalam culture, Telugu culture, and Kannada culture. Right. There should be a complete, cross-pollination and overlaps. We cannot understand our culture without the interdialogue. Right. That is very crucial. One of the difficulties with the ideas of heritage and culture is we tend to be exclusivist. Right. We think that there is 100% culture to everything. Nothing is pure. Everything is contaminated. Right. And fourth, the heritage also should be a means of ethical reflection. Ethics means responsibility. We cannot talk about critical heritage without talking about ethical, moral responsibility. And fifth, it could also be a potential means for development. As in ecotourism and all these kind of other things, right? A particular way of articulating critical heritage could be a way for economic development. And finally, we also need to understand the heritage should be shared simultaneously by the local and the global. That is what the whole idea of globalization about, right? We cannot simply confine the heritage. It is impossible for confining the Tamil heritage only to Jaffna and Bariklo and Tamil Nadu. It's no longer valid. Tamil has become transnational. It's global, right? The culture and the values of the second generation Tamil growing up in Canada is part of Tamil culture, whatever contestation you may have. Right? We can't simply escape it. Because this culture and heritage is no longer confined to a particular territory. That is the key important in understanding, the critical way of understanding our contemporary Tamil heritage. Right? Now, I have a few minutes. So very briefly, what exactly I mean by Tamil heritage, by using this critical heritage perspective. I have identified 8 aspects of Tamil culture and Tamil heritage we need to be thinking about, we need to be talking about, we need to be focusing on. The first, as we all know, Tamil is a classical language. It has a very beautiful, powerful classical Tamil literature. And this tradition is continuous in the sense that, we speak the language. Sangam poetry was written a long time ago, 2,500, 600 years ago, but we still speak the Tamil. Not all the heritage and classical languages are available that way. There are only few heritage classical languages. So in that sense, our contribution to human civilization is perfectly there. This uninterrupted tradition of classical language, literature, and poetry, which has not been appreciated enough. That's the second story. But that is number one point in the Tamil heritage. And two, we have had a secular tradition. Tamil language has never been associated with any particular religion. We have Buddhism, we have Saivam, we have Shaktam, we have Samanam, we have Islam, we have Christianity, we have Jain. It's been a tradition where you can identify every single classical language to a particular religion. English and Latin Christianity, Arabic and Persian Islam, and Sanskrit Hinduism. You cannot identify Tamil with any particular religion. That is the most important secular tradition we have been having for a very long time. That is point number 2. Point number 3, if we look at the whole idea of the, Yadamure, Yavaran right, that tradition, you can see high degree of diversity, multiculturalism, and cosmopolitanism. We haven't developed it in a very powerful way, but the ideas and notions of diversity, multiculturalism, and cosmopolitanism has been part and parcel of this whole tradition. Right. I'm not saying this in the spirit of, before there was gold, there was Tamil, or, Tamils are the first people to invent helicopters or the rockets. I'm not saying that in that kind of megalomaniac spirit. What I'm saying is that with the evidence that there have been a high degree of cosmopolitanism and diversity and multiculturalism that had been articulated way before in terms of society, in terms of culture, in terms of literature. We need to start from there. So that is point number 3. Point number 4, one of the very powerful traditions, heritage in Tamil is the maritime seafaring, maritime trade, and traveling. Right. For a very long time, even before we started leaving the country as refugees, we had a very strong tradition of seafaring as maritime trade guilds, long time ago, right? It started a very long time ago, but I don't want to go into details, I don't have time. But that is one of the key things about this maritime tradition is the notion of leaving the country, right? So we are talking about diaspora now, right? But the diaspora has a long history in the Tamil tradition. And particularly, this is exactly where the Muslims become part and parcel of our heritage. Because in the maritime trade, most of the important traders were Tamil Muslims. If you could go to Southeast Asia and various parts of things, the Anjumani group is one of the powerful Muslim maritime traditional guilds. They were the forerunners of contemporary banking, modern banking was initiated with all these kind of people. So this is exactly the point I wanted to make, because without the inclusion of Tamil-speaking Muslims, our heritage is nowhere from the tradition. That is point number 4. The point number 6 is, as I mentioned, is our need to re-articulate the notions of cosmopolitanism in the spirit of Yadamure, Yavaran earlier. And number 7, the importance of Tamil labor. The labor, during the maritime, the initial phases, we went to various kinds of places as traders. Then the colonialism came. We became, dispossession, right, as is mentioned yesterday. The colonialism made profit out of our dispossession, right? It is what we call accumulation by, dispossession. And because of colonialism, lots of Tamils from various parts, they have become indentured laborers. Right? We went to Malaysia. We were, from Tamil Nadu, they went to Sri Lanka. So the indentured labor has been a very important part of our heritage. It's very good or bad something. But with this indentured labor, without the Malaysian Tamil indentured labor, automobile industry in the United States would not have succeeded, because they are the ones who were responsible for rubber. Without rubber, Ford, Chrysler, all the largest automobile companies in the United States, they wouldn't have function. In a similar way, you see the development and construction of Singapore, Malaysia Railway. So in the entire in the modern capitalism, the importance of this Tamil labor is very key. We have never paid attention to this one. Right? So the labor, working, indigent labor, this is part of the heritage. We cannot be. That is the most important aspect of our heritage. Right? And then finally, the Tamil heritage is largely dependent on the notion of landscape. It is symbolic landscape and landscape, as we say in Tamil, so it is not just the language, it is not just the notion of ethnicity, but the landscape. Kurinji, Mullai, Madam. So perhaps this is one of the classic examples of creating or constructing and articulating an identity based on particular kinds of landscape. We were very close to the landscape, nature. This is a completely different way of articulating heritage. So based on all these 8 aspects, we should be willing to re-evaluate and re-articulate and reconceptualize our heritage in the contemporary period, right? So I don't have time to briefly say about what's happening in the post-war development, quote-unquote development, and what is happening to heritage there in Sri Lanka. But I'm sure it will come up during Q&A, and I'll be willing to explain more. And if time permits, I have some slide photographs, and I will show you, right, depending on the time. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we've got about 15 to 20 minutes to do the Q&A. So we'll start. Please, if you've got comments, please keep it brief. If you've got questions, please also try and get to the question as soon as you can. And yeah, let's have a show of hands of who wants to ask either of the panelists their questions. Otherwise, I'm sure the panelist, so Chairman said he's got more slides to show us, so we can continue with that. But
yes,
yeah.
I think we will see the slides.
See the slides?
Yeah, quickly.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay, sure. I think we're going to quickly see the slides and then we'll get to questions.
Is it too low?
Yes, I give me more time then.
How long will the slides take?
3 minutes.
2 minutes? I think we've got someone has asked to see the slides.
Go into the questions?
Yeah, let's quickly see the slides, then we've got questions. So, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you have a question?
No, you just go to the slide and
Okay, I think now there are people who want to ask questions. So let's do the questions because I think people are putting up their hands. Okay, I've just got. You want to see the slides? Okay, we're going to see the slides. All right.
Yeah, we will see the slides.
Let's go first.
I'll try. This is a photograph taken in Jaffna. You see all these traditional heritage kind of doors. Special, it's a material culture produced by people in Jaffna traditionally, a different kind of thing. Now they are there, ready for somebody. They bought it, and in the post-war after May 2009, all these kind of material culture and the artifacts are being brought by traders in the south and from the other Western traders, and they are being taken away. So part of the heritage is gone. You can find some of them in the art galleries in Colombo and in various other parts of the world. They're just example. They are ready for
even coffee shops.
Even coffee shops, right? From the temple, from the traditional houses, and all these different kinds of different patterns, right? Mostly gone. There was no attempt to preserve that one. See, when I was talking about this tangible heritage, there are these in the Western model, everything that is 100 years old becomes part of a heritage property. You define the heritage property as 100 years. So anything that was built or created 100 years ago automatically becomes a heritage property in the contemporary modern Western law. But these are some of the. This is a modern seminary in Jaffna. This is it's a very old. it is actually a heritage property. You know, and it needs to be a heritage property because this illustrates as part of our tradition of diversity, you know, and then the secular tradition, right? There are several others. This is another aspect of intangible heritage, Kovalan Kuti in Vanni. And I don't know how many of you have ever had a chance to see Kovalan Kuti in Vanni before, right? So there are dozens of cultural traditions specific to Mannar, Vanni, and Jaffna, and Puttalam. They are no longer there. This is one example, but there have been some attempts in reviving some of these things. So see this particular artifact, right? This is very peculiar and very special to that particular kind of stuff. And this is the Terumudi Madam. I don't know how to translate this notion into English, but this is a very traditional old kind of shed or shaded place where the people put, that's a road. That's
Resting place on the street.
It's there. It's still there. And in the 1980s, 85, 86, out of 37, 39 militant groups, they all had to fight where to put the posters in there. Because it was full of posters by all the militant groups. Now I think at least it's clean now. So this is from Narindevu, the traditional, the wall fence. This is out of kind of limestone. You can find this kind of fence, this kind of the fence only in Narindevu, nowhere else. Because that particular stone, limestone, is available only there. That particular, it's very easy. So within 5-6 years' time, if it is not preserved, it's gone. So that particular kind of heritage is gone. That is very special and unique to that particular area. So this is an interesting how different kinds of Kutulakas are part of the heritage. Right? You can see the variation on a common theme. There may be one simple model, but over time, the culture, the heritage is a dynamic process, right? People and communities change the structure, right? But still the things change. So you don't need any explanation. So this is one of the other heritage sites in Jaffna. The Shivan Koviladi, and then Kishanraja should know more. This is the one and only last remaining the architectural and kind of a town planning in the heritage way, where the towns are based and created, and the temples take the center. Temple is the center, and surrounding the temple you see all kinds of traders, artisans, and the musicians, all. So that is the part of the city where that particular historical town is located. But because of the road development after May 2009, so this is KK's road. That means it's one of the main arteries in Jaffna. So the whole idea of the architecture and city is almost gone. So that was the one and only remaining temple city in the entire Sri Lanka.